Welcome to a video tour of Earthly Delights, curated by Susan Jennings, Alan Letcher, and Julie Torres at the Re-Institute in Millerton, New York. Here we have Colin O'Con's piece titled Cypress, which is part of a series of arch and rainbow sculptures and paintings that the artist has been working on for 9 years. It plays with the idea of nature, its shifting scale, and otherworldly color to evoke a sense of sublimity. Next, we have Laura Kaufman's Standing Fold. Woven felt constructions began after a master basket weaver workshop who works in the tradition of Adirondack weaving. The weave is a natural fit for the felt whose wool fiber is already agitated into interlocking slabs, allowing the artist to build and draw simultaneously. She hopes to evoke the dark geometric mass of a hedge while also referencing domestic textiles. Next, Moon Dance by Stuart Farmery. Hope, transition, and balance. A line of comparison and a lineage that leaves a connection of disparate parts, a song. Susan Meyer's Transformer, recalling the futuristic utopian instincts of another era. Transformer appears ready to alter or transport to another dimension the hanging form within its chamber. The geometric sculpture is a direct translation of an informal two-dimensional sketch. Alyssa Sullivan's Totem 3. This work is the third totem the artist made this year. It is made of 3 parts and interlocks together. For this work, she was searching for asymmetry, yet wanted it to cohere into a consistent form. Nurihana's X-ray. The artist solidifies the inner experience as if it could stand side by side with outer appearance. In a process of introspection and making, she excavates the poetic imagery of the anatomical state. This piece lies at the doorway between the outer and the inner. What does it feel like and look like to expose the inside? This collaborative piece by Meg Lipke and Tamara Zahajevic is called Longing for Megara. Longing for Megara is a floor piece comprised of patterned, volumetric, concentric fabric circles radiating out from a vertical structure made of intricately pieced paper and foam core. The artists are friends who made individual works in progress that were resolved together into one piece through studio collaboration and conversation. Each artist has established a studio practice in the area of sculpture and painting. This piece is the artist's first collaboration. Michael Tong, Bottom Feeder. Bottom Feeder is based on a fictional dystopian future at which point the human race has evolved into an amphibious creature that lives part-time on the bottom of the ocean skimming for eatables. Joan Grubin's Froth Yellow. Froth Yellow is a paper floor sculpture highly constructed to appear as a casual spilling line. Growing upwards off the floor through progressive chromatic shifts, starting with the floor color and moving through shades of increasingly pale yellow, it makes volume organically while remaining virtually weightless. Nicole Cherubini's Blue Slip. Slip is used to weld porcelain to blue glazed porcelain. Will Simon's Support System. Support system considers the people and forces in our lives that help to hold us up. This work takes on a bold scale and puts the ceramic surface in proximity to the eye of the viewer. Combining 3 materials that continue to hold the artist's attention, the piece draws on the structural, material, and practical implications of the medium at a bodily scale. Claudia Tienen's Trouble in Your Mind. Ellen and Julie visited Claudia's studio together, and they all chose these works and assembled them. Claudia is a bluegrass musician and painter. It was fun to reimagine her work for the floor. Millicent Young, vehicle with 8 vertebrae. This belongs to a cycle of work vehicles consisting of a total of 5 works, inspired from the availability of material, a 200-year-old hickory that came down on her land, and her meditations on the invention of the wheel, the domestication of animals, and where it has led us. Guy Walker, Legas Gloicus. In 2010, Elizabeth Ivers suggested results from a box of oil pastels. Awaking from a sleep June 9th, 2019, results finally occurred on paper, with the oil crayons giving way to ideas for a floor-standing sculpture akin to the delights of my earthly habitation, which is forever bubbling, drawing through the breezes and sunlight, says the artist. Carl Dalvia, Pup. Contradictions in conversation. Minimal with a Baroque articulated surface treatment. Funny but statuesque. Geometric yet biomorphic. Post-pop and archetypal, etc. Christina Tenaglia's Untitled. Minimally three-dimensional, minimally assembled, and minimally depicted, these situations seem familiar but are not easily placed, revealing themselves simply, next to, on top, beneath, in front, behind. Ceramic parts are made and included for their unforgiving permanence. In contrast to the wooden paint, they are unchangeable, elemental, and bone-like, the parts that are left when everything else has gone away. Susan Still Scott, Saddle. Saddle is a three-dimensional construction made of materials typically used to make a two-dimensional painting. A wooden panel stands vertically on a glass plane. The panel is supported by the painted canvas as it folds over to touch the glass. Matt Freeburghaus, Tongue of Ice. Tongue of Ice is a scale model of the Skaftafellsjökull Glacier in Van Nankúli National Park in southern Iceland. The artist sees the work as a monument to the rapid retreat of glaciers globally, most easily observed by glacial tongues of ice caps. The model is squared at the end to resemble a giant arrow indicating the direction of glacial retreat. Adrian Meras, Loaf, Sop and Glow. The artist thinks of each work as a community, an aggregate with the potential for transformation. The irregularities within the repetition, the phantoms of organization, the interference, distortion of color and titles are navigational devices. The work is the legend, a platform for the viewer to map. George Spencer, 10 liters. This work is made from discarded consumer packaging and pre-used felt. The images are of 10 of our leaders. These leaders belong underfoot on the floor and not standing, sitting, or on a wall. Dan Devine, Mulan. Mulan is the geological term for a hole bored into the earth below a glacier created by water from the melting ice. Mulan is a quiet record formed through the slow flow of suspended plaster seeping into the folds and crevasses between crashed cars. 2 cars swerve out of control and crash. Part of a glacier breaks off and falls into the sea. Courtney Puckett, the editress. Constructed out of scraps, an old mirror stand, a car seat headrest, fan, laundry bag, used bed sheets, and clothing. The editress is a form with 2 bodies, one larger than the other. Is the editress imparting wisdom to a protege looking at herself in a mirror, or out for a leisurely stroll with her pet? Perhaps all of the above, as the human impulse to reflect on and determine final content of self is inherent in everyday existence. Madison LaValle, Nitty Sandwich. As an act of dissection, the artist explores the materials that make up our built environment. Specifically focusing on what is available at Lowe's and Home Depot, she takes what is invisible due to its ubiquity and remixes materials in the form of exploratory sculptural compositions and installations. This sculpture, Nitty Sandwich, is part of her material composite series, combining soft, hard, heavy, and light materials in a combination that reads as familiar yet foreign. Chunky fiber is manipulated to mimic heavy metal chains, and layers of lightweight insulation foam is textured with paint to mimic asphalt. Nikako Kanamoto's The Seeker. The Seeker is a work from the series The Forest. Using clay and found wood, the assemblage studies the balance between spirit and matter. Composed of illusory assembled eerie tree parts, next to the trunk sits the eye of the seeker who surveils and protects the sacred tree. The seeker echoes the artist's fascination with the story of Kodama, a spirit in Japanese folklore that inhabits trees. If one attempts to cut it down, it is believed that the tree will start bleeding and that one is to be cursed. Claire Sherwood, Stacked. The work shown here is created from the detritus from her home. Cardboard boxes and other packaging is collected from the recycling bin and assembled into new forms. These forms are treated with a series of materials to build surface texture, mystery, and implied weight. The forms are then coated with color and sealed with encaustic wax. The artist began creating these forms inspired by the rocks of her childhood filled in her pockets when they were young. The form no longer references rocks specifically, rather any artifact that has been displaced and uprooted. Catherine Umstead, Life Raft Wreck. The life rafts were made as a personal response to the plight of thousands and thousands of refugees fleeing their homes in search of safety. Becca Van Kay, Barney. Barney is an Aquarius who loves cilantro and New Wave. He's highly affectionate but refuses to talk about his feelings. He has a favorite hairbrush and sings karaoke every chance he gets. Linda Stillman, Underfoot 1. Some thoughts, noticing nature, the fragility of nature, looking down, trampling on things when things are broken, dead leaves, climate change, fall, underfoot, police, chalk, outline, Carl Andre. Alyssa Lendvay, Mother-Daughter. The artist made the first version of this piece at the Greenwich Pottery House in NYC. The forms are smooth and tactile, each with an interior side and a sort of spine. They're abstractions from natural forms with a variety of associations, including palm, leaf-like, or like a pair of lungs. The smaller form came from the larger and sits into its space. The artist was thinking of her mother when she made this, and of fragility and strength and other dualities. Ashley Lang Thompson, Miss Expanding Universe Depression Kit. You can tell a lot about a person by the contents of their depression kit. The viewer is encouraged to interact and use the various tools provided, i.e., view the world through rose-colored glasses, read passages of epic poetry, attend a Skin Pickers Anonymous meeting, symbolically surrender obsessive love to God, etc. This depression kit literally saved the artist's life. Courtney Tramposh, This is 40 on Vacation. The artist made this artwork while in residency at the Vermont Studio Center this year, when she turned 40 years old. The piece is a physical and symbolic marker of this turning point in her life, an introspective moment in time to reflect upon her personal successes and failures, goals and dreams, to reconsider and plot the future, and remember and make peace with the past. The artist placed the sculpture in a cabana to protect it from the sun and from being run into. Leah Guadagnoli, None of Your Bismol. The interwoven shapes and pastel palette is informed by the system generated in the pattern within the found piece of secured fabric. There are a variety of textures the artist likes working with, and here there are two types of pumice stone which are used to portray what looks like stucco. However, the plush surface conflicts with the rigid material, adding to the system of contradicting components in this modular painting. Stephen Main, untitled. This untitled work is made of extruded foam, acrylic modeling paste, glue, paper, canvas, plastic, wood, and acrylic paint. The artist has made a few paintings with it by using it as a printing surface. It has become a sculpture, but that might be temporary. Its identity and status as a sculpture might end if the artist grant it use value by printing it again. Michelle Segre, Drift Loaf Mobile, Black and Green. This is from a series of tabletop-sized sculptures made from found rocks, wire, and painted bits of bread. Alexander Ross, untitled. The artist made some oil paintings on paper and thought to do the same three-dimensionally, which meant papier-mâché. The form lent itself to exploiting the physicality of the paint rather than blending an illusion. There are many layers and even some crayon stumbling underneath. Jessica Gaddis, Bite. Jessica Gaddis combines the withdrawn daily object with hand-formed materials that are equally industrial and organic, playful and somber. Her work is a meeting place, a confrontation of the effective and the reserved. Sensual wave, monsters of clay and plaster overwhelm the off-the-shelf. Monique Lucchetti, Dotted by Life But Good. This comes from a body of work the artist was making a few years back about the female form. As she was making this piece, she began to think of it as a girl, a teenager really, and her form was a result of the life she lived. She appeared battered, bruised, and misshapen by her life, but also strong, colorful, and sturdy. Daniela Juling, Crystal Melt. The ancient word krustalos, meaning both ice and rock crystal. Middle English from Old English, meltan, akin to Old Norse melta, to digest, Greek meldon, to melt. Jeff Starr, Goldfingers 2. Goldfingers 2 is one of a group of ceramics loosely called droop. It reflects the artist's interests in functional ceramics, George Orr cups, face jugs, and thrift store treasures. Its use as a bong water pipe is evident when the piece is examined closely. Terry Moore, Resonant Memory. This piece is a revisit to an exploration of identity, emotional presence, and reflection. Each ceramic piece is a self-portrait vagina pot. They rest on a reflective and refractive surface representing the collective place of women in the world, a broken history that is held in place by the presence of a primal collective connection. The piece as a whole is a portal to visually connect to and hold dialogue with. Gala Pen, Swing Low. In Swing Low, the artist deploys lightweight synthetic materials to foreground internal conceptual and formal dualities, cohesion and fragmentation, balance and vertigo, minuet and jitterbug. Through cutting, layering, stapling, and stretching plastic garbage bags, mylar, optical plastics, and mosquito netting, the artist examines the nature of shadow, light, and visual ambiguity. Her aim is to construct an object of perceptual incident. Thank you very much for spending some time with Earthly Delights.